Good morning, everyone. That was lovely, thank you. Thank you for joining us for this live dialogue as we broadcast from the Innovation Hub in St. Kitts on this, the 10th anniversary of International Girls in ICT Day. It is being celebrated under the theme, Connecting Girls, Creating Brighter Futures. In today's session, girls will be learning from women influencers in ICT, like myself. I want to make sure our audience didn't miss that. We are live at the Innovation Hub in St. Kitts, utilizing the innovation and the technologies that are available to us through the Ministry of Information and Communications Technologies. My name is Genelle. I am a woman in ICT, as I mentioned before, and I will be moderating today's live dialogue. I am joined by a number of exceptional women in ICT and users of ICT from various sectors within our own federation. Not experts from abroad, our own women in ICT. I really want to emphasize this point because representation in technology is important. I see Twanna nodding her head, I like that.
Definitely. Representation
of women in technology is important. Local representation of women in technology is priceless, especially as the government of St. Kitts and Nevis has shared a plan to pursue an agenda of digital transformation, an undertaking which calls for involvement of all sectors and one which requires that we all embrace technology. And speaking of government, I would like to introduce today's illustrious panel. I was going to begin with the Honorable Akilah Byron-Nisbett, an accomplished and credentialed technology professional in her own right, who now serves as our Minister of Information and Communication Technologies, et al., but she's chairing a regional meeting and could not join us. I will now introduce this lovely lady on my right, Ms. Twanna Finch. She currently, I'm sorry. She currently serves as a systems analyst within the Ministry of Information and Communication Technologies in the e-government unit. Ms. Finch is also a graphic designer and web developer. She will be representing the public sector in today's discussion, but we hope she will add some of her experiences as a graphic designer and web developer just to shake things up a bit. Please let us welcome Ms. Finch with a round of applause. Our next panelist is Ms. Anastasha Elliott, the CEO of Sugartown Organics, a company which seeks to create sustainable alternatives to boost nutrition and minimize crop loss. Most notably, Sugartown Organics is fully e-commerce friendly and utilizes several digital payment options. I understand that Ms. Elliott, here to represent from an entrepreneurial standpoint, has indicated that these digital platforms help to keep Sugartown Organics alive when things dried up on account of the pandemic. And I'm really looking forward to hearing her views on technology today because she's an entrepreneur who had the good sense and the vision to embrace technology to ensure business resilience. Please let us welcome Ms. Elliott. I really want us to give this next panelist a very warm and welcoming round of applause. Ms. Asia Clark was only just this morning asked to join us on the panel, and she didn't really need a lot of convincing. She knew that she had a duty to the rest of women in IT and aspiring girls in ICT to come up here and tell us her story. So allow me to introduce our next panelist, Ms. Asia Clark, a student at the Technical and Vocational Educational and Management Studies, currently pursuing IT. This is a division of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. Ms. Clark is also a member of the St. Kitts and Nevis Robotics Association, an association that's very near and dear to my heart, so I'm so glad she's here to represent that today. And I look forward to hearing her views as they are representative of the young women like herself and these young women present today, the ones that we hope to appeal to, inspire, and encourage. Please let us welcome Ms. Clark. Thank you. So with the introductions out of the way, let us get into the meat of the matter. Just so everyone understands the run of play, I will pose questions to our panelists just to help to advance the discussion. These questions will be along the lines of their experiences in tech, what made them embrace tech, whether it is as a career or as a vehicle to further their business or to see to the success of their business. And then in between the questions, we'll open the floor to questions at intervals. And then towards the end of the session, we will open the floor, we'll end and open the floor fully to questions so that you could benefit from us being here. So I think an appropriate place to begin is to kind of get a sense of how our panelists got their start in technology. I know for me, I was mentioning it to the panelists at the start of the discussion. For me, my launching pad in technology was essentially by virtue of the fact that my father had the good sense to leave an old computer lying around the house. It's unfair for me to call the computer old now because it was probably the latest and greatest and the most cutting edge thing in the world at the time, but you know, this is how many years later. So it was, I could remember it well, it was a beige compact computer. It was huge. It was nothing like this tiny device you see here. And between my sister and myself, we used to pretend that we were running at a doctor's office. And so we used to use this old computer to manage our patients. So the computer was our patient management system. We used to register when they attended, like when they came to visit the doctor, what the various ailments were. And from that experience, that early experience with an old computer, there was no internet, by the way. I just want to make that clear. There was no internet. It was just the computer and the tools available on that computer. That was it. So based on that experience, it kind of whet my appetite for technology. And from that moment, I pursued every opportunity to get exposed to technology. So I did IT when I was in high school. I did IT when I was in Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. There was no, the IT program that you have now, it actually was not there when I was there. So I was in the IT program at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College main campus. And from there, it propelled me into pursuing a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science and a Master's in Information Systems Management. And now I'm seated in Information Security. So I kind of want to throw this question out to my panelists. What got you started in technology? Because I want to know if the stories that you have to share are similar to mine. So Twanna, start us off. How did you get into technology?
Hi, good morning. So it's similar to Genelle's background. My father was into technology, and therefore he influenced me to pursue that interest. He would build computers from scratch. We had PlayStations and Xbox and any console you could think of when I was your age, and he would fix them because we had a store where we sold video games and music CDs and all of these things, and he would influence me to actually learn how to fix game systems, and eventually I grew an interest in that because I was exposed to so many things. I had a pager back then. I don't know if you all even know what a pager is.
You were really up to the times.
Yes. I had BlackBerry phone, I had a Razor phone, I had any technology you can think of, and it always interested me. So after high school, I went to CFBC College, where I pursued IT as one of my courses, and after that, I began working for the government of St. Kitts as a programmer at the age of 18. And from there, I used to develop websites and any other IT duty you can think about. And then after working for 5 years after CFB as a programmer, I went off to university where I studied management of information systems. I returned 3 years ago, and now I'm seated back into government in the public sector where I'm a systems analyst. So I've always been around IT. Like, that is my baby. That is something that I truly enjoy. I enjoy change. I enjoy innovation, and I constantly want to learn things, and IT is about learning every day. And I'm also very creative, so IT is about creativity and problem solving. So there are so many different factors why I chose IT.
Before we go down to Anastasha, I just want to highlight that what Twanna spoke to as some of the themes that I hope come out in the discussion today, wanting to be involved, being exposed to technology. I think we are poster children for what the benefits that of putting technology in the hands of children. of course, there's more that comes along with just putting the technology in the hands of children. There must be structured learning in place as well. But I think it begins with just making technology available, letting children explore their curiosities, letting children expand their horizons. And I really think that, I hope that comes out in our discussions today. Anastasha, let's hear from you, please.
Okay, so my story is a little bit different. In high school, I had picked up IT. It had just been introduced into the high school. Growing up, I was in a space where we didn't have cell phones. We just had a phone. We wanted to talk to the phone. We had to pull this long line, right?
I remember quite well.
Yes. And so going into high school, I think we came to that period where we were getting the pagers and then the BlackBerry phones or Razors, those flip phones. And I said to my mother when I picked up IT that I would like to get a computer so that I could do my work at home. And she said to me, well, I ain't buying none. I will buy you the parts so you can put the thing together. So I said, okay. And that is how I learned from doing that, how to work a computer, putting these parts together, figuring out what goes where, how to get things to connect so that it works the way you want it to work, right? And so I had that, and without any teaching. I couldn't go to my teacher and ask them because they were teaching us the basics of programming, how to work Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, that kind of thing, not actually to build a computer. And so I had to figure that out on my own with a little help from her because she was technology minded at the time because she was in the military. Yeah. And that kind of started me on that path to technology. Yeah. I was always business minded. So in school, technology was just an adjunct to business, something that I could see might matter later down the road, but at the time it was fairly new. And so it was learning that, and then as I grew along, thinking of what I wanted to do in business, the things that would matter, the things that would get me to where I wanted to be. Because for me, business wasn't something that I just wanted to focus on singles, because it's a very small population. Right. I wanted something that could transcend borders, right, and could reach people no matter where they were in the world. And so for me, technology was that avenue to do that. And so as I grew, I learned all the different skills that I thought I needed. So learning how to do graphic design. I took a job in graphic design to learn that. I worked in media to learn how to communicate on the web. I took these different jobs so I could learn these skills so that I could do them myself, right, in my business, so that I could grow at a pace that I could control. And so for me, as a woman in ATC, I didn't have a lot of backlash. You could say, like, people telling me I couldn't do it because, again, I didn't broadcast that I was doing it. I just did it. And so for me, it's very important for girls to get these skills from very early on because it helps them to direct the path that they're on as opposed to somebody directing it for them. And in my families, we're very big on a woman not working for someone else but working for herself. So she doesn't have to be bombarded by a lot of the things that women are exposed to in the workplace, especially working for men. And so for me, ICT is very important in that space.
So again, I see that you too are a poster child for the benefits of putting technology in the hands of children, because you said your mother, she said, I'm not buying your computer. She gave you what you needed to build your own computer. You built it. And you also touched on something that I hope we discuss more today, which is technology expands horizons. It opens up the world to us. It is a vehicle that could take you places, because you mentioned, rightly so, that you knew that you needed technology in order to reach a broader market beyond St. Kitts and Nevis. So thank you for that. So Asia, I am really looking forward to hearing from you and what got you interested in pursuing an education in IT. Because myself, Twanna, and Anastasha, you could argue that we are not of your generation. It could be argued. I could argue otherwise. But, tell us, what got you interested in pursuing an education in IT and hopefully a career in IT? Because I want to look back from this moment and see a little face sitting in an office running an IT department somewhere, if not a more significant position than that. Tell us.
Well, for me, okay, so when I was smaller, my parents always used to have like phones and tablets, well, not tablets, but computers and stuff. So like how you would be playing with whoever, your sister or your family, like you're running a business.
In our doctor's office, yes.
Yes, I used to do the same thing. And I used to just take their phone and just go through it and go through the settings and everything to learn the phone for myself. And from then on, they just used to come to me and ask me what to do this, how to do this, and all of that. And my parents are running a business also, Jamrock. So I wanted to study IT to more improve the business and to study software and web development so that I can help them to, you know.
That's really admirable, Asia. And you and Anastasha, it's so fitting that you all are sitting next to each other because you both seem to be molded by an early push into entrepreneurial pursuits. And so I think I hope you speak more to the use of technology in your entrepreneurial pursuits today in this discussion for the benefit of our audience today and our listeners. So now I'm happy to introduce Miss Vikwana Edwards. She too is a student panelist of ours, and she is studying IT at the Technical and Vocational Educational and Management Studies Division of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College. She's also a member of the St. Kitts Nevis Robotics Association, and I'm very happy to welcome her today. So please give her a round of applause. So Vikwana, similarly, tell us, we're doing an informal study up here. We want to know if, because I think Asia also mentioned that she had an early introduction to technology just by virtue of the fact that she had access to technology. So I don't want to lead you, but we do want to know how you got started in technology. We want to know what caused you to pursue an education in IT. And I am taking an informal poll to see if it had anything to do with having access to technology at an early age.
Well, I didn't have access to IT in the early age, but in high school I was interested in architecture at first. But then I started to attend Mr. Deepak IT class, and he always talking about this wild field of IT, and I wanted to explore more about IT. And then I realized that I'm not just smart, I am creative with drawing and building. So that's when I started to go to the IT course in TFBC. I was like, man, I really want to do it in IT, but I wanted to join the Marine course and take IT towards it. So now I just designing mini bots and drones, and that get me excited every time I do it. And now, since I'm part of the St. Kitts Nevis Robotics Association, I have the opportunity to work with Sanjif and some others with the drone competition.
So, my poll was a little short because you did admit that you didn't necessarily start life off having access to technology, but you definitely got a grounding in technology by way of the IT program in high school. Just to let you know, so I did say that I could argue we're of the same generation. Mr. Deepak taught me IT as well. So you see, it all comes back around. We are of the same. He taught you as well? Okay, very good. So I just want to take a moment to big up Mr. Deepak because he had a part to play in 3 of us, all of us. He taught IT as well? Okay, at least 4 of 5 panelists were introduced to IT in a formal way by Mr. Deepak. So Mr. Deepak, wherever you are, big up yourself. Round of applause. And you touched on some really interesting things. I want to hear more about the Robotics Association because I think robotics is one of those emerging technologies that could really take us places in St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm so glad 2 of our panelists are members of the St. Kitts Nevis Robotics Association, and I want to hear more about that. So Anastasha, you touched on something that I want us to circle back to, and you were saying that you noted that nobody necessarily discouraged you from pursuing IT. And I think that is admirable because I wouldn't necessarily say that that was my experience. It's just that I had a certain disrespect for gender roles. And I was trying, the world was trying to condition me into believing that a career in technology was not necessarily for a woman. And I'm happy to say that I wasn't raised to believe that women had roles and men had roles. My parents had me outside cutting the lawn, nailing up, what do you call those things? Hurricane shutters when a hurricane was threatening. So there were the only man in our family was my father. And so we couldn't afford to put aside tasks for a man because then my poor father would be overwhelmed. So all of us had to pitch in. We all had to participate in things that were not necessarily deemed feminine. And so the point I'm getting around to is that early in my career, I was discouraged from, maybe not strongly, but I definitely recall being persuaded not to pursue a career in technology because it wasn't necessarily something for women. I was also discouraged because it was felt to be something that was too technical, and it was felt that I would struggle. And given my healthy disrespect for disobeying social norms and gender specificities, I pursued it anyway, and I'm happy that I did so. But tell me, speak to some of the challenges that you yourself had to overcome. I know you said that was not one, but were there any other challenges that you had to overcome, whether in your pursuit of a career in IT, an education in IT, or your use of technology in your business?
The barriers that I had to face were pertaining to me as a young female in business, not technology on a whole. It was just me being a woman, young, pretty, wanting to go into business. I grew up in a house, same as you. I didn't have a father around. I knew who my father was in and out, but my mom, she was a strong figure who could do everything, no matter what. She had to build a table, she could build a table, she needed to fix the pipe, a broken pipe in the house, she could fix it. And so for me, I didn't see gender roles per se, like a man is supposed to do this and a woman is supposed to do that. I didn't see those because I wasn't exposed to those things growing up. A woman, she could do whatever she wants to, right? All she has to do is apply herself. And so for me, perhaps they tried, it could be that they tried, but I never noticed it because if it wasn't something that contributed to what I was trying to achieve, I blocked it. Naturally, that was just my natural teaching. If it didn't contribute, it just didn't matter. And so for me, if I wanted to learn something, I found someone who could teach me. And I see the young lady, the teacher here in the audience, who was part of one of the programs, the technology programs that I did, where I coded my own website. She's not, she remembers.
Big up yourself, dear. Big up yourself.
Yes. And so for me, it was a matter of finding the spaces that I needed to go to learn what I wanted to learn. It didn't matter if somebody was telling me no, or you can't do that. Is what I wanted and is what I was going to achieve. And so I always just push myself, like, this is what I want, look around to see what was available, what could I get into. If it was something that focused on women, fine, even better. If it was something that I had to compete with a male, I didn't mind, right? Because it's what I wanted to do. I didn't care about what he wants. And so for me, as women, I think we have to take that role. Like, if it's what you want to do, go for it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't or this is not for you. It's not up to them to decide, it's up to you. And so for me, yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that I can't say that you rejected the ongoing narrative that technology is not for women, because what you said is that you didn't even hear it, which tells me that I admire that a great deal, because it said that you were so steadfast in what it is you were trying to pursue that even if they were naysayers, you couldn't hear them. And I think that's important. It's important for us to know what we want for ourselves and not allow the pressures of society dictate what it is we do, whether we pursue what we want or not. So, Twanna, tell us, what challenges have you had to overcome as you pursued in IT and now a career in IT?
Okay, so I definitely experienced a lot of challenges. For me, at your age, I thought that technology was hands-on only. Like, I witnessed my father fixing things, fixing games, fixing computers. So I thought that what IT was, and I like to do my nails, I like to do my hair, I like to, look good. So I was like, this isn't for me. I don't want to be messy, I don't want to get dirty. But as time went on, I realized that IT has so many different sectors. It's not just hardware or fixing things. There's so many different aspects of IT. And after I started working here, I realized that my skills, being creative, being a designer, has so much to contribute. I stopped asking myself, how can I fit in? Instead, I said, you know what can I contribute? What can I bring to this type of environment? Another challenge was customers didn't believe in me. Like, when they see me, they think that I do not, have the capabilities of doing IT. What can she do, And I had to constantly prove myself, constantly. And they're like, wow, like, I did not know you had this type of capability, So client trust and confidence was a barrier, as well as I thought that being a woman in IT, we were not leaders. Like, we couldn't have managerial positions because it's a male-dominated field. So I thought that I would have to battle with men to get certain positions. And look at departments of technology where I work. Compared to years ago when I started, we now have more women here than back then. We even have all women leading this department, from the minister straight down to the permanent secretary and the director. So women can do it. We can do it. IT is not just about getting your hands dirty and fixing things. It's about what you can bring, your mindset, your creativity and innovativeness. Yeah.
Twanna, you're just giving me so much food for thought here. And Vikwana and Asia, I promise you, I want to hear your challenges. I really do. I just want to take a moment to shed some light on something Twanna said. Twanna mentioned that hair, nails, and looking good is important to her, and I second that. So I say that to say that there's this, and it goes back to the narrative that technology is only for men. And because technology is only for men, a woman in technology cannot want to look beautiful as she pursues excellence in technology. And I want to reject that. I want to reject it right now. Twanna also mentioned that she wants to shed light on the fact that there are so many roles that you could pursue in technology besides just coding. I think there is this, the popular media pushes the coding agenda, and coding is important, don't get me wrong. Coding is absolutely important. I am not calling down the benefits and the virtues of coding, but what I am doing is that, what I want to do rather, is to let you know that there are roles in technology besides coding. We have robotics, there is artificial intelligence, there is cybersecurity where I work, there is, I'm drawing a blank at the moment, forgive me. However, the point I want to make is that there are roles in IT beyond coding. And so I don't want you, our aspiring girls in IT, to sit here and say, well, I don't think I will be very good at IT because I don't enjoy coding or I don't understand coding. I want to say that the learning would come if you pursue it. If you really want to do coding, the understanding and the expertise would come with practice. But also I want to say that there is more to IT than just coding. There is so much for you to get into. There's also networking. Anastasha spoke to the fact that she herself, in her introduction to technology, it was through having to assemble her own computer. So you also have that aspect of technology to think about. And also something, Twanna, like I said, so much food for thought. You also mentioned that you are concerned that there weren't enough leadership positions for women in IT. And you mentioned the fact that this is in fact changing, because look at us now, we have a minister of ICT that is a woman. So definitely the guard is changing. We're now seeing more female representation in leadership positions. But I could understand it was definitely a challenge. Even for me, I could reflect on my own, going back to being introduced to technology. The people that introduced technology to me were men. And the people I saw in leadership positions in technology were men. So it's important for you, our aspiring girls in IT, to understand that you could look however you want to look and have interests besides technology. It's important to know that there is life in IT besides coding. And it's important to note that there are positions in leadership, in technology leadership for you. I just wanted to shed some light on that, spend some time there, because I think it's important for our young girls in IT, our aspiring girls in IT, to understand that. So now back to the program. Asia, tell us, what challenges have you had to overcome in your pursuing of an education in IT?
Well, I wouldn't really say I have any challenges yet, because my parents are supportive, my family is supportive. So if I say I want to do IT, they would tell me, okay, we're gonna do it. They wouldn't discourage me and say, oh, you can't do that, or So I wouldn't really say I have challenges, and going to school now and learning about different things. Some things would be hard, but it's nothing that you can't overcome. So
thanks for that, Asia. I'm happy to hear that your parents were encouraging. Mine were as well, and I credit them for my being here, because they never once said to me, Genelle, you can't do that. And so I just want to give your parents a round of applause for that. And for all of the parents out there who might be on the fence or who might be against having their girls pursue a career in IT, I hope our representation on this panel is the evidence that you need to realize that it is a viable career path, whether it is that you want to pursue corporate pursuits or you want to pursue entrepreneurial pursuits. Technology is in fact a viable path. So I just wanted to spend a moment to reinforce that. So Vikwana, tell us about you. Have you had to overcome any challenges? It's okay if you didn't, but just in case you had to overcome any challenges in your pursuit of an IT education, anything you want to share with us?
I really didn't have any challenges. Things was hard, as Asia said, but I scraped through them and I'll get through. But there was like ups and downs when people tell me I cannot do this, and I always prove them wrong, and that's what I like.
So it sounds like you did have a bit of the naysayers trying to discourage you in the form of telling you that you wouldn't be able to measure up, you wouldn't be able to handle it. I'm glad you persevered in spite of. I just want to take a moment to see if we have any questions from our audience. We must have a question. Anything. Even if it's to ask us what school we went to. Or to ask Vikwana or Asia who their favorite teacher is right now. No takers? Okay. So, no questions yet. Hopefully they'll come around. So let's get back to some questions to our panel, because we want to try to get to know them a little better. They said a lot of great stuff. I'm trying to make notes as they speak. They've been giving me so much food for thought. I can't type as quickly as they speak. So, what do you think we need to do? So we established that there needs to be more representation of women in IT. I think in our speaking, we established that that is a need. Although there has been some growth in that regard, there is room for more improvement. What are some things that you think we could do to ensure that, to help us along those lines? Tell us your thoughts. How could we see that we have more women in IT? Start with Twanna. Okay, well, my opinion is internships. I think that even at the secondary level, internships should be a part of the curriculum for students who are interested in IT. Even if you're not sure that you want to pursue IT, it would be good to have internship, meaning that you go to a workplace such as this and you get to shadow or follow someone like myself around and see the type of things that we do to see if you would be interested in that. And you never know, like you might have an idea of IT right now that it's all just sitting down and coding and whatever, but the more you follow me around, you'll see that it's much more than that. And another idea that I had was mentorship, which is, consulting with someone like me at a young age, a young woman and an older woman, consulting to ask me questions, to guide you along the way, any ideas or pursuits that you have in regards to IT. Even if you want to go to a college to study IT and you have questions that you would like to ask me before you choose that course, that is what mentorship is. And I think those two avenues would be useful. I must agree with you, Twanna. I certainly know the value and the virtue of internships. I was able to pursue a master's degree at no cost because I pursued an early internship in technology while I was doing my bachelor's. I didn't think I would get it. I thought that I didn't qualify. I thought that I wasn't good enough. I thought I was attending a school that wasn't noteworthy enough. I didn't think my application was worthwhile. I applied anyway. And I was able to, I was shocked. Good shocked. Flummoxed, gobsmacked, everything, all of the expressions that speak to, just being entirely, astonished that I had been accepted. And it was to pursue a summer internship at Carnegie Mellon University, where I would eventually go to do my master's. But it was because I pursued an internship why that happened for me. So as good as the internship was, it was made better by the fact that it led to a master's scholarship for me. And so I just want to spend some time and thank Twanna for raising the importance of internships, because they do add value. They add value along the lines of professional experience. They add value along the lines of just getting a foot in the door, which was the case for me. And I'm sure it's the case in the professional realm. You also spoke to adding IT to the curriculum. And I think that's another area that we need to pay attention to. We definitely need to get more meaningful IT studies added to the national curriculum. I truly believe that it's important for us to expand our horizons along the lines of technology. I also think, because I don't think it's enough to just put the tools in the children's hand. The technology itself is the tool. You have to learn how to use the tool in order for it to work for you. It's like giving me a chainsaw right now. So I know I said I have a healthy disrespect for gender roles, but if you gave me a chainsaw right now, I would run. I don't know how to use it, and I'm terribly afraid of it. So we put the tools in their hands. We build their capacity by way of putting meaningful IT studies in the curriculum. We also need to ensure that, and just along the lines of curriculum, I think it's also important that we the teachers themselves also need to embrace technology. They themselves need to embrace digital literacy and the values in that regard, because I think it will be very difficult for teachers to teach along the lines of a digital agenda if they themselves do not appreciate and understand the technology. So it means we retool and reskill our teachers so that they could retool and reskill our students and build the economy. I see my teacher here nodding her head. I'm happy to hear her. I'm happy to see her nodding and agreeing, because I know our teachers, they're really important. I know that for me, I revered my teachers when I was growing up, and I see it in my own kids. They revere their teachers and they want to emulate their teachers. They want to be what their teachers are. And so it's important that we give the teachers the tools that they need to pass on this knowledge to our children. I don't want to take up the whole floor, I just want to recap some of the salient things that Twanna said. She also spoke about shadowing or following a professional, because I think that too is important, because you can't become what you can't see. So it's important for you to, and it goes back to knowing that there's more to technology than just coding. I'm certain you have a lot to share. All of us, we have a lot to share along the lines of what we do day to day in technology that is not just coding, that is interesting, that is noteworthy, and that could really take you places. And you also touched on the importance of mentorship and the value of guidance. Anastasha, I've said a lot, but please come in.
Okay, I agree with Twanna with the mentorship and shadowing. There's also apprenticeship that can be utilized as well. I also believe that it's not enough.
There's also what that could be utilized?
Apprenticeship.
Apprenticeship, yes.
I also believe that, again, that it's not enough to just give them the tools, but give them situations where they can utilize the tools and see how they can apply them into their daily lives, because technology can apply to more than just a job in technology. Like for me in business, I utilize technology. Someone in science can utilize technology. Somebody in carpentering can utilize technology. In agriculture, you can utilize technology. And so giving them avenues where they can see how the technology that they're learning can be applicable in all these different situations, I think could go a long way into encouraging them into technology fields.
You keep giving me such good food for thought. You spoke to the fact that the technology tools could be used beyond the technology. So, and that's a very important point, and it kind of hinges on the same coding issue that I raised, where people think that popular media pushes the agenda that technology is just coding. People think technology is just technology. Technology isn't just technology. Technology could be applied to any pursuit, to any domain. It could be used to improve lives across sectors. So I don't want us, we use technology in agriculture right now to ensure that our there's less manual intensive labor associated with the development of agricultural products. It's important for us to, and I'm glad you raised it, mention that technology could be applied outside of technology. So technology isn't just for people in technology, but you as a, oh my goodness, we have a young student nodding her head in the audience. I'm so pleased. It touched you. I'm happy to see that. Because technology is for all of us. I want us to get out of this narrow way of thinking that technology is just for people in technology, it's just for people who consider themselves tech savvy. And I'm going to use one very simple example to dispel that. So how many of us have seen children fresh from the womb, I want to say babies, not even children, fresh from the womb, navigating an iPad? Navigating an iPad. I'm saying that to say that you don't have to be a trained technology professional. You don't have to be a world-class technology expert to make use of technology. Babies fresh from their mother's wombs have the capability to learn to use iPads. And we see it every day. We laugh at it, but let us laugh at it, but let us appreciate that the capacity is there, and we should all make use of it, and it's there for all of us, not just those of us who sit here and wear the cap of technology professional. Asia, tell us about you. What do you think that we could do to encourage more girls to participate in IT, pursue IT educations, pursue careers in IT?
Well, I don't know if I have any better ideas, but workshops could be one. So they could be like a yearly program or a monthly program where different heads of IT would come together and they would encourage the ladies in IT to do different...
Like a think tank?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
you have a goal, you have a problem, and you have this amount of time to create a solution using technology. Yeah.
What was a
think tank.
A think tank. Yes. I think tank. I love that. I'm making notes. By the way, I just want everybody to know that I'm making notes of all the things that we discussed today. I am going to share the notes that we take, which is why I want the audience to ask questions. I want you to make suggestions, because I intend to take all that we discussed today and take it to the minister so that she could know what the desires of girls and women and technology are. So please don't be shy. We want to hear from you. It's really important because we see you as the very next in technology. And I don't want you to think next is 10 years from now. Next is actually now, because I know you have laptops, I know you have iPads, I know you're all pursuing careers in technology. I see my niece back there, and I know she's an avid technology enthusiast. And so I just want to make sure that you know that you need to be present today. You need to let your voice be heard, because I'm going to represent your views to the minister who was unable to join us today, because it's important that we foster inclusivity of women in technology, because by default, if you don't encourage inclusivity, you actually by default encourage exclusivity. So please include yourselves, be present, be heard. Asia, thank you. I've made note of the think tank, the apprenticeships, the workshops. Vikwana, tell us, what do you think could be done to encourage more women, more girls to take up IT careers and educations?
Well, what I had in mind is that you give ladies, women, a role. Like, as you said, there's a minister and she's a woman, and I'm happy to hear that. And then I also had in mind that clubs and, as Aisha said, workshops. Yeah, I really have nothing to say about it.
I'm making notes. So leadership roles for women and workshops. And organizations of women in technology. I think that's an area that we need to work on as well. I was having this discussion not with a woman in IT, but a fellow colleague in IT that is a man. And we were mentioning the fact that in our federation, we don't have any established IT interest groups. It doesn't exist on the federation level across like non-gender specific, it certainly does not exist for women. So maybe that's something that we need to include on our list of recommendations that we take to the minister to see that we expand the inclusion of women in technology in the Federation. So I just want to take a moment. I am going to open the floor for questions again. But before I do, I just want to go over the overview of today's event for those of us who may have just joined us online, or for those of us in the audience who did not get the benefit of hearing that or seeing that, so that you could, maybe it might help to encourage a question or a comment from you. So I just want to go over the overview. The Girls in ICT Live Dialogue, dubbed Girls Growing into Responsible Leaders Successfully, is centered around high school, university, and newly working young women. This event is organized by the Department of Information Technology and will be conducted via Zoom, the innovationhub.kn Facebook page, and local media. The goal is to create a discussion where mentees can tap into experience, the knowledge, skills of Kittitian and Nivision women in the Federation or the diaspora, and learn how to advance the pursuit of ICT careers by reviewing the path taken by successful women. So, having gone over the overview, I'm hoping now that we have a question or a comment from the floor. Please. Teacher? Yes, please. Please give our teacher a microphone. Come to the floor.
Before I begin with my question/comment, I just have to say how proud I am to sit here and see women, all women up here, all female.
Round of applause.
Thank
Round
you.
of
Thank you.
applause.
Thank you.
Should we give her a microphone from the stage? Because I know you said before you stated your question, you just wanted to
Yeah, I
write.
wanted to say that.
I don't want to miss the question.
So let me go right into it. My question is, I don't know if you know or /suggestion, are there any plans for moving structured IT programs into the primary section? I love robotics. I'm excited. I don't know how to do it, but I've seen it and I've read and then when we got this information, my girls in grade 6, they were excited, but they can't participate in the robotics part. They said it's first and second form girls, right? So I just want to know if there's any plans for extending downwards, because they're really interested and they are actually really good. So when I saw this was timely, because last term in our new social studies curriculum, they had to do a miniature business project, and they blew my mind, even with ads. Their technology is their baby, right? And
Remember coming out of the womb, they know it, right?
Yes,
right.
yes. And so I'm interested to know if there are any plans for that. And if not, then I would like to suggest that we begin looking at that, because even at this age, they are indeed capable.
So your question has to do with, I want to make sure I capture it adequately. Your question was, or accurately, your question had to do specifically with the Robotics Association or along the lines of IT in general at the primary school level?
I think both at this point, yes.
Okay. I had heard, I cannot speak, you will speak to the government's plans, but I recall hearing that there was a plan to relook the school's curriculum along the lines of making sure that IT was more representative in that regard. I hope it was not just talk. I mean, the fact that there is talk is encouraging, but I want to make sure that we get to the point where there is action along the lines of the Robotics Association. I'm sure I saw Dr. Neil in here. Did he leave? I'm certain that he has a plan for the primary age children where the Robotics Association is concerned. I would be happy to, he doesn't seem to be here right now, but I would be happy to get in touch with him on your behalf to find out what the plans are. Because you're right, we need to get them exposed, we need to build their capacity, because there is a wealth of talent that we are not exploring just by virtue of the fact that we are not exposing them to the technology and learnings along the lines of the technology. So I will definitely pursue that. But Twanna, maybe you could speak to what might be in place along the lines of the building IT into the school's curriculum. Perhaps. If not,
Well,
we will address it some
I
other way.
wish that I can speak along those lines. However, that is a great suggestion. I know on Wednesday, next week Wednesday, we have an introduction to robotics event here at ICT Center, and it is geared towards first and second farmers. I think that is due to spacing. However, you never know. I could put in a word and see if your girls can fit in. I'm sure the person who is in charge of that event would not mind. So I can speak to him after this, and I can get your contact information and let you know. Okay?
Thank you.
Oh, we have another question. Oh my goodness. We have a question. I am trying to hold myself together. I'm so excited to see one of our students ready to ask a question. Please.
I would just like to say, like you guys were saying, it would be good to include IT in other subjects. Like, I'm interested in medicine, and I think it would be good if you could also do that in the primary level, like having IT interested in other subjects in the primary level, like science and mathematics.
And I'm so glad you raised that, because it touches on what we discussed before, which is that technology doesn't just belong to technology. Technology has a very significant place in medicine, and I'm going to very happily take the suggestions from our discussion to the minister, because I definitely want to see IT added to the primary school curriculum. I also think that it shouldn't just be added to. Y'all could tell me your views on this. But I also think that IT doesn't just belong in schools, but they plan to build capacity around technology for the best interests of our federation cannot just rely on the schools and the teachers. It needs to be an all-of-society approach, so to speak. So it goes back to what I said. We don't have any interest groups at the federation level for all technology professionals. We don't have any female in technology interest groups. We have a few groups like the St. Kitts Nevis Robotics Association that is working to build capacity along the lines of robotics and the use of technology in that regard. But we definitely need more. We need coding camps. We need avenues that children could get into where they could learn technology even outside of school. I mean, I know there was a shortage when I was in school. I've seen some improvement in my adulthood, but I don't think it is where it needs to be. So yes, we need to take a moment to celebrate the fact that steps have been made, but we definitely need to see that we continue to pursue and expand that agenda. Because as Anastasha mentioned, and I just want to circle back to that from the beginning of our discussion, technology broadens your horizons, technology gets you beyond the shores of St. Kitts and Nevis, and that is ultimately what we want. Anybody wants to weigh in on that one in terms of the... Oh, another question from the floor. 2 questions, oh my gosh. So excited. Please give these children microphones. Let's hear from them.
This isn't really about the bringing it into. It's more like about your personal experience. What was your favorite part in, like, maybe your studies or maybe your career that kind of not encouraged, just your favorite part about doing this? What was your favorite part?
So for me, and this, thank you for your question. Thank you. I think it's important. I am very happy to say that coding is not the end-all and the be-all of technology, because it's not something that comes to me naturally. So I can do it. It just doesn't come to me naturally. And I am not afraid to admit that, because I think it's important for others whom it may not come naturally for to know that success in technology does not hinge upon success in coding. But to go back to your original question, when I was in school, my interests were along the lines of database administration. I loved database administration. One of my favorite courses, I can't remember the name of the course right now, but one of my favorite courses had to do with the development of a database management system. And so we went through best practices along the lines of creating all of the tables, building the relationships between the tables to make sure that the data was adequately stored according to best practice. Every database management class that was available to me when I was in school, I took it. But that was me. I am so happy to hear. I'm happy for your question because I really want to hear what the rest of the panel enjoys most along the lines of technology. Let me start with Vikwana. Vikwana, tell us, what is your, going to the question that was posed by our audience member, what is your favorite subject in technology?
Well, it's system analysis and design, because I love to design things. Because a point in my life, I always wanted to be a fashion designer as well. But, I grew past that. So,
So now you apply your interests along the lines of design. You've transitioned them from fashion design, or maybe you still have an interest in fashion design because you look quite fashionable up here on the panel today. I just want to recognize that. So you are perhaps loaning your interest in design to systems analysis and design. And that was also one of the courses I enjoyed too, by the way. So Asia, let's hear from you. What's one of your favorite courses in technology at the moment?
It would be coding.
Coding.
Because I'm into software development, so I would like to write my own programs and stuff like that. So it would be that.
Fantastic. And I celebrate you, given how I struggle to code. So I just want to applaud you for that. Anastasha, let's hear from you. Because I just want to make note of the fact that I've spent a lot of time discussing the fact that Anastasha is an entrepreneur, but Anastasha also has training in technology. Apart from her own, what may sound to you like a hobby pursuit of the assembling of the computer, Anastasha has in fact pursued formal training in technology. So I don't want to skip over that because it's important, and I wanted to speak to that now and tell us what her favorite subject was.
Wow. Okay, so for me, I am a creative, right? In high school, I wanted to pursue art. My mother said no, go into business, right? And so for me, what technology has allowed is for me to express that creative side of me, the artist in me. It has allowed me to create, like for my business, I create all of my labels. I mean, we have an SKU of over 100 products, and all of the labels I created. Or digital marketing, I run that, right? And so it has really enabled me to sort of delve into that creative aspect and not lose that part of me pursuing something else, and be able to communicate visually, audio, what I'm trying to get you to understand about my business and about my products in a way that you can understand, especially now, where so much, where in marketing you said the attention span is about 30 seconds. Yes. I'm able to capture what I need to get you to understand what I need you to understand about my products. And so for me, my favorite part of technology would probably be the creative aspects of it and what it allows.
Not to cut you off, but you raised something really important, which is that you need to be able to convey your message, and you use creativity, you use your marketing expertise to push that message. It's also important to note that in this, as we are still in this pandemic, and we are benefiting less and less from physical interactions, it's important to be able to express yourself and communicate on digital platforms.
Yeah, and be able to bring all those aspects of communication and blend them seamlessly, right?
So, right.
So taking what you would normally do in a physical space and putting it in digital and blending that technology actually helps you to do that.
Correct.
In a cohesive way, in a way that people will get.
Correct. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that technology is good. Technology is wonderful. Technology, we need it now more than ever, because gone are the days when you could do things in the physical way that you normally do it. The physical realm is uncertain right now, and so we need to be pursuing the digital hard and fast. Thank you for that, Anastasha. Tell us, Twanna, what was your favorite subject in school?
Yes, I can relate to Anastasha, marketing. If I would like to have my own business one day, I want to know how to design my own logo, flyers, business cards. I'm a creative mind, so that is what I am into. And I also want to incorporate social media, because social media is the way forward. It's not just about entertainment. It's also about marketing your business. And so that is my favorite aspect of IT, marketing. We all have cell phones, tablets, whatever it is. All you have to do, click of a button, and everything is right there. So that is the way. That is my favorite part of IT.
So I'm glad again that you mentioned that, because you mentioned also going back to the importance of communicating using marketing, being able to communicate and express yourself digitally in the realm of technology. You also mentioned the importance of social media, boys and girls, and I guess boys too. The social media, my classmate is back there laughing at me. So social media goes beyond just keeping up with your friends. You raise a very important point, and it's something that I want to touch on. But before I do, there was another question, but social media could be used for more than just keeping up with friends, and we will circle back to that. But there was a question from the floor that I want to make sure we get, because I just made a very serious campaign. I just undertook a very serious campaign to get questions from the floor, so I can't now, with the questions they are coming at me, ignore them. So please, you had a question. And thank you to everyone who asked questions thus far. Believe me, this is your forum. We are here for you. We are here for you to benefit from our experiences thus far so that you could be better than us. Your question, please.
Okay, so my question was like similar to this teacher. So it was like, since technology is rapidly growing in our society, why can't you guys teach it in the primary levels? Why do it in the high school levels when some children don't really understand it? They say it's challenging and it's hard for them. Because one of my my cousins, they say that IT is hard and challenging. So if it will be in primary levels, right? It will be more easier for students and more understanding for them.
And I agree with you. I mean, the reasons why children who are born into homes where multiple languages are spoken embrace all the languages so easily is because at that age, at that primary and below age, they're really receptive, they're able to absorb everything. And I agree with you wholeheartedly, and it actually grieves me that we don't teach IT at the primary level, because this is, I mean, you're learning yourself. This is when there are fewer distractions. I guess the panel could weigh in on that as well. At the primary level, there are fewer distractions. As you become a teenager, you get a little older, you're distracted by all sorts of things in life. Peer pressures start to pull you here, there, and everywhere. But at the primary level, it is when you are most absorbent. It is when you are most attentive. It is when I think you could benefit most from learnings along the lines of technology. And so, believe me, I will be taking these questions and suggestions to the minister, because I think it's important for her to know, not just that we up here are saying that technology needs to be taught at the primary level, but the primary level is asking for technology to be taught at the primary level. So thank you for that question. Oh yes, we have another question. Oh my goodness, I'm so heartened. Please, let's get this young lady a microphone. Thank you so much for your questions, everybody. And listen, the questions are so on point. Y'all are so on point and relevant and topical in your questions. I am so encouraged. Believe me. Please, what's your question?
I wanted to ask how do you really know what you want to become when you grow up?
How do you know what you want to become when you grow up? I am still struggling with that.
I guess you can start with, what are your hobbies?
Thank you, Twanna.
What do you enjoy doing in your spare time?
I like to draw a lot because my brother studied that year when he was young, and I like to draw a lot.
There you go. So you already have interest from since a tiny tot. There are things that you enjoy doing, and I guess the thing is, as you develop, as you go through the school system and as you grow, you will get an understanding of how you can use drawing as a career path, because drawing is creative, it can be innovative, so many things you can do with drawing. You could be a fashion designer, you could be an IT professional, you could be anything you want to be, so you're going to get it eventually, you're going to understand eventually.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, Twanna. Thank you. That was a really, really insightful way in, because I was going to say something else, but I think I like the way you took that. I think I like the direction you took that response in. Anastasha, you want to weigh in on that question? How do you know what you want to be?
For some people, it comes about differently. So for me, it was what I loved doing. what's made me feel at peace, right? And so for me, pursuing that avenue was what led me to where I'm at now. I started out, growing up, I was in business, yes, but I did fashion design, I did journalism, and it's all creative, right? It's all within the artistic realm. And so it's going along that chain and seeing what you gravitate to and seeing what will make you feel good about what you're doing. Because if you love doing it, it never becomes a job, right? It will fulfill you on a level that most things cannot. And so for me, finding that, just going along the path to what you love and exploring it and see where it takes you. Because you're going to end up where you want to be without you actually knowing it at the very beginning. Like right now, all you know, you love art, right? But as you grow and as you explore and as you develop, you will come into something that is creative and that fits you perfectly.
And as I always say, whatever your talent is, whatever you're good at, you can turn that into a career. Because that's what I did. I always knew I was into computers and being creative, so the perfect field was IT. But yeah, whatever your talent is, your skill, your natural ability, you can turn it into a career choice.
I love how you, and Vikwana and Asia, I'm going to ask you the same questions too, so you could begin to prepare your responses mentally while I just kind of circle back around and just tie up the responses from Twanna and Anastasha. I think what you mentioned is really important. It comes from one of the avenues you could look to in terms of what do I want to become. Let it come from, let it be inspired by what your passions are. And also, what you touched on, Anastasia, is exposure. And it's why I hate to you know, I don't hate to. It's important to reiterate this, that knowing what you want to become comes from exposure. And it's why I push for exposure of technology to our children, because they don't get to know that there is a universe of opportunity out there within the realm of technology if they're not exposed to it. And so I want to just restate the importance of following your passions as well as exposing yourself to numerous things. So you might think that, and on that note, I want to say you might think that something may not be interesting. You might see that there's maybe a field trip, just to put things in perspective for you. There might be a field trip or a camp, maybe an Easter camp. We're just coming out of Easter. There might be an Easter camp, an optional Easter camp, of course, because you could always just stay home and do nothing. But there's an Easter camp coming up. It may not necessarily be something that immediately interests you. So I'm going to use the example of, I don't want to use art because I think we touch on art and the creativity along the lines of artistry and graphic design a lot since we've been on the panel, but I've seen workshops for the creation of vision boards, which I think is so interesting. And you might say to yourself, well, I'm not sure how knowing how to create a vision board could be of interest to me, but you wouldn't know unless you expose yourself to it. So you may not necessarily know how a vision board could impact you, could improve you, if you don't expose yourself to the learnings afforded to you as they become available. So I'm making the point to say, just to restate, pursue your passions and take advantage of the things that you're exposed to make sure you broaden your horizons, you know all that's available. And having experienced all of that, you could pick and choose. Well, you know, when I did that vision board thing, maybe it wasn't for me. It might be for my sister because she likes that kind of thing, but maybe it's not for me. But having done maybe an art camp, you could say, you know, art is where it's at. I am an artist, or there might be a graphic design course and you pursue that and you say, you know what, I think I could do graphic design. I think I could see myself in a graphic design role in the future, running a graphic design business. Thank you for your question.
Also, might even see how she could include vision boarding into what she's doing as well as an additional income stream.
Correct.
You know, so
but you wouldn't
know how it fits, how it can fit in.
Exactly. Thank you for that. So Asia, what would you recommend along the lines of, or what are your views along the lines of learning what you want to be, learning about yourself, what you want to be and what you want to do?
Well, I had to do a vision board in grade 8, like around second form, and to this day I still am indecisive on what I want to do. So, like, I wanted to study forensic science, I want to be a detective, I wanted to dance, I wanted to do chemistry, I want to do a lot of things. And they still interest me, but I'm indecisive. what I would say is to test your skills, and whichever you feel is best, you can pursue that as a career.
Thank you. Thank you for that. So it kind of touches on what we discussed before, which is, what are your interests, and also what am I exposed to, and do I like what I'm being exposed to? Thank you for that, Asia. Vikwana?
Well, since I was small, I always wanted to be a police officer. But growing up, I learned certain things and I learned skills. My father is a construction worker, so I do things around the house to help him. And I also wanted to be that. And then that's when I start to realize I love to design things, as I said. So I get into fashion design and say, I want to be a fashion designer, and then later I want to be an actress or something like that. Then I have a brother who used to be in the military here, and then I realized, he's tough, I want to be tough like him. So that's when I start to be like, I really want to be a detective, I want to be in the military, the Navy, the everything. And then I was like, but what do I really want to do? And I said that's when I started going this a deeper class and stuff. And I realized then, if I'm like active, why not drive an active, career? So I want to be like around there and then take IT with me.
So I'm back to my little informal poll. It sounds like the entire panel is benefiting from, we are all beneficiaries of and promoters of the use of following your passions and exposure to help you to discover within yourself what it is you want to do. So you could definitely begin there to answer your question. Do we have any more questions from the floor? Malaika? Malaika, you're not going to ask a question? Oh my. I thought my niece would ask a question. Okay. So I just want to go back to something. I did make note of something I wanted us to discuss. And Anastasha, you touched on it. The role of, or the importance rather, of continuous learning where technology is concerned. So we, myself, Twanna, Anastasha, Asia, Vikwana, we have all, and some of us, Asia and Vikwana, we are currently still making use of the formal framework for learning to learn technology. We have passed through, myself, Twanna, Anastasha, we have passed through formal training. And perhaps we will continue to make use of formal training here and there because there's a role for that. And Vikwana and Asia are currently still making use of the formal framework for learning as relates to learning technology. Something I want us to discuss today for the benefit of our audience is how could I learn about technology outside the realm of academic places. So I'm not talking about going to school to pursue a bachelor's degree. I'm not talking about going to university to get a master's degree. I'm not talking about a certification. I believe in all of those things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not discounting them. I'm saying, how do I, on a day-to-day basis, keep up with the ever-changing landscape that is technology? So I just want to, I see Anastasha ready to answer the questions. I will not hold her back. Anastasha, please share with us.
So for me, I am a serial learner. I'm always doing some class, some course. I mean, the teacher is not in her head because she's no. And so I tend to stay up to date on what is happening, what is current, and what is changing, especially in my business. I formulate skincare, and that is something that changed very quickly. Right, there's always something new, some new way of doing something, some new ingredient, there's always something new. And so it's really staying up to date on what is happening. I'm a member of a lot of different groups, right? Because sometimes it's not in, the schools tend to be a bit behind of people who are actually working in the field. Right? And so it's being in the groups where these people are, because that's where they share that information. That's where someone might be given a little course, maybe an hour-long course or a couple of days course, where you can learn something right then and there that you can you can take and bring it back to your business and whatever it is you're doing. I also, in the early days, I started participating in competitions, right? Like pitch competitions or doing a workshop, Women Innovators Network workshop that spanned like 6 months. Sometimes very long, right? The periods are long, but you're like one day out of that month or whatever. And so just being active in the learning and keeping up with what's happening is a really good way to stay front and of what's happening, of what's going on, and be able to stay right there in the mix of what is happening when technology is concerned, or even if you're not fully in technology, just what is impacting what you're doing, right? Because with business, social media impacts business in a big way. If I wasn't paying attention, I would be behind, COVID would have shut down everything and I would have been lost, right? But because I was so much into technology already, I was able to quickly adapt and quickly put new systems in place to take advantage of what was happening so that I didn't fail, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to start something that you're going to fail at, right? So you put everything in place to ensure that you do not fail. So if you need to learn more, you learn more. If you need to put a system in place, you put a system in place. If you need to learn a skill, you learn that skill, right? So just to ensure that you can continue.
I was making note. So you spoke to the virtues of interest groups. You spoke to your membership in various interest groups. You spoke to the importance of these competitions that you entered. You also
you don't enter to win, you know. You just enter to learn, right?
For the experience, correct?
Yeah, just go for the experience. It's not about winning. It's about learning what's happening, because you won't learn if you're not in there, right? You have to be in there and participating to learn. Just looking on won't necessarily get you the knowledge that you want to. So you apply, right? Sometimes I apply to things and I'm like, I don't think I can get through this. And then I get, well, congratulations, Elliott. I'm like, oh, wow, what am I going to do next, right?
I have to go now.
Yeah, so now you have to learn. You've got that extra push now you need to learn, because now you have to go compete in this thing, and these people are coming from Africa, and where technology is so much more advanced than in the Caribbean. But you also learn, and you also build that network where now you can, if you don't know something, you know someone who knows it, so you can go to them and say, look, I have this problem, how can I solve it, right? And so also building that network within the field that you're interested in is really important.
So just to touch on something there, and I want to come back around to this too, but just to kind of recap what you said, Anastasha, and something I want to underscore, bold, italics, increase font size to like 40. You said we don't necessarily pursue things that we don't necessarily pursue things to fail. And I know you also said that sometimes when you apply for things, you apply not knowing, or maybe thinking to yourself, well, you know, I won't be picked. But I want to go back to failure. Culturally, we believe that failure is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing. It's how you learn, actually, because you learn what not to do. Right? You learn what not to do, and you learn what you need to do to get it right the next time.
I'm hearing an intervention from the audience. Yes. Oh, say it again, the failure.
No,
yes.
Failure is not a bad thing at all. Failure is how you learn, right? If you didn't do it wrong and it didn't work, you would not know that it wouldn't work if I did it this way, right? You would not know that if I change this, that this might work in the way I want it to work, right? So don't be afraid of failing. Always look at it as a way that you're learning how to get something done right.
Correct. I saw a quote one time. I'm certain the gentleman in favor of not being afraid of failing knows who said it. It says, it goes, fail forward. Who said it? I don't remember either.
You hear that so many times.
You heard it, right? Yes.
Yeah, I've had mentors I have a mentor in Barbados, and she always say, fail forward, fail forward. It's like her mantra, fail forward. Like, try it. You never know until you try it. If you fail, then you know that it's not going to work the way you want it. You're trying, right? Figure out another way.
Correct.
Right? And then in business, they teach you, like, there's this, I forgot what it's called, but how do you figure out what to do? And the way you do that is you figure out how not to do it. Right?
Fail forward.
Yeah, so in figuring how not to do it, you figure out how to get it done. Right?
An important point to that it needs to be said, it needs to be shouted, especially in technology, because as you pursue technology, as you undertake projects in technology, as you pursue exciting and emerging things in technology, you will, unfortunately, fail a number of times until you get it right. But don't get hung up on the failure part. Get hung up on the until you get it right part. You will get it right. You just need to persevere. You need to make sure that you learn from the failures, learn what not to do so that you could change it and be successful. Maybe not the next time, but the time after that. So it's important for us to mention that. Twanna, I've taken up your, I was about to just transition to you, but then Anastasha gave me food for thought, and I just had to run with it. But Twanna, please weigh in and let us know. Give us some recommendations along the lines of keeping abreast of the ever-changing landscape that is technology outside of pursuing a formal education, which comes at a cost and also takes your time because you have to dedicate yourself fully to it. What could you do to keep abreast in your day-to-day?
I will keep it simple. Use the internet. We all have devices, you know, and we use them to communicate to our friends, our family, etc. I would utilize the internet because that's what I did. When I was your age, I couldn't afford to do certain courses and stuff, you know, online or in person. So I would go on YouTube. Let's say that I'm into the medicine field and I want to learn how to install help me out, some technology tool to help me with my job. I will go on the internet. How do I do this? And everything is right there. There are a lot of free resources online. You don't have to pay a cent to learn. It's just about looking, reading, and if you're not the type to read too much, YouTube is there. You know, just use the internet.
I second all of that wholeheartedly. Just to tell you some of what I do when I want to keep abreast, one of my favorite things to do is to listen to podcasts. So I subscribe to a number of technology-related podcasts. Whenever I have moments where I can't use my hands to necessarily navigate the screen to participate in maybe a course, an online course, or to read a news article, I would, like I do it when I'm getting ready at mornings. My poor husband, at mornings, I have my favorite podcast blasting in the bathroom. He could barely get a word in because this is my moment, this is my quiet time to get to learn from others in a way that is cost effective and in a way that doesn't force me to take myself out of my day-to-day to learn. And so I use my passive time, my day-to-day, my moments between activities to listen to a podcast or to on topics of interest in technology for me. And sometimes it's not even technology, it's just some things that I want to keep abreast of. Something that Twanna mentioned that I made note of that I wanted us to circle back to is the role of social media. Yes, social media plays a significant role along the lines of technology. Anastasha touched on it as well in terms of using technology for the furtherance of your business. But I also want to encourage you, because I know we all make use of social media, but use social media to do more than just keep up with friends. I know for me, in addition to keeping up with friends, I use social media to keep abreast of topical things. So I follow my favorite influencers along the lines of technology, IT, cybersecurity, anything that is of interest to me. I seek out the centers of excellence in that regard. So I seek out the people who are experts in that regard, the people who post regularly in that regard, and I follow them so that without having to go out of my way, even as I'm just on social media macroing, in my macroing, I would see that my favorite thought leader posted something of interest along the lines of something that I want to learn. I saw Twanna itching with her microphone. I won't hold her back. Go ahead, Twanna, weigh in. You weren't going to weigh in?
Yeah, no, it's
Okay. So Vikwana and Asia, what about you? Asia, how do you recommend, what advice would you give to our young listeners as relates to keeping abreast of matters of technology without necessarily sitting down in a classroom?
Well, I was gonna touch on social media also.
Excellent.
Yes. So most of you use TikTok. Most of you are on TikTok, right? No?
I see some heads, yes.
Okay.
You touched a nerve there, a good one.
There are a lot of teachers who take the time out to do videos, short videos, informative videos. You can go on one of their profiles and you will see a lot of informative things regarding technology. I also do that. not just regarding technology, but regarding cars and all sorts of stuff that I'm interested in. So TikTok and Instagram also could be used. I think most people would have access to those websites and stuff. So.
Thank you for that. So I'm on the right path, because if Asia endorses the use of social media for following industry experts and thought leaders, then I know I'm doing something right. So Vikwana, let's hear from you. What do you recommend for our young listeners, our audience members, as it relates to keeping abreast of technology outside of the formal systems for learning?
Sorry about that. So in a classroom, when a teacher is teaching me, I don't pay attention at all, because it will come in me ear and it will go out the next ear. But the moment I sit down by myself and start to teach and read for myself, I understand everything. But also what also helped me during school, as
Genelle?
No,
As Twanna.
Twanna said, use YouTube, internet. Asia said TikTok. TikTok taught me so many things a teacher can't teach me, and that's how I learn and build, things.
I like that very much, the use of TikTok. You see, I'm so glad you all are up. You see how much value you're adding to our audience, because we didn't mention TikTok.
See, because a lot of, I won't say old, okay, a lot of more mature people of more mature ages tend to think that TikTok is just foolishness and only rubbish people post on TikTok. But there are also a lot of informative things that you can learn from TikTok.
So I'm learning, thank you, my student panelists. I'm learning that TikTok is a virtuous thing. You're right. I used to think TikTok was, I see my daughter listening, participating. I wouldn't even say participating, but she loves to look at these TikTok dance videos. I thought TikTok was just for dancing. I hope I'm not showing my age. But so I'm happy that you've weighed in along the lines of a platform that is relevant to our audience that they could use to keep abreast. And I just want to go back to YouTube. I forgot to make mention of it when Twanna mentioned it. There is a fantastic YouTube feature that I just discovered, because sometimes you're right, you want to learn something. You don't necessarily want to read, you want somebody to tell you about it, right? And we're talking about those moments where you want to learn something without sitting down in a classroom. So but sometimes there's a lot of, you have to wade through a lot of content before you get to what you really want to hear. Because sometimes when I go to YouTube to hear something, and you could tell me if it's the same experience for you, I go there with a specific thing in mind that I want to hear. And so sometimes I would see the video and it's like an hour long, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for a whole hour? I just want to get to the point where they mention this one thing, because I know they're going to mention it, except I don't know at what point in the hour-long event they're going to mention it. There is the transcript feature. You could turn on the transcript, so you could kind of skip down to the point in the video where it is actually, you could read the transcript for what was discussed in the video. Yeah. And skip down to this section. My teacher friend is nodding. I love when I touch on something that moves her. So you could skip down to the relevant point in the YouTube video and wade through and get past the section of the event that doesn't necessarily appeal to you. I think we are approaching the end of our event. We have an 11 o'clock end time. I just want to open the floor for questions before I ask our panelists to give us some final words. Before we have a question. Awesome wonderful, questions.
Wonderful. My question is, who was your biggest, the word again. My head just gone blank.
That's okay, take your time.
Inspiration.
Technology?
In technology.
In technology. That is an excellent question. I have been inspired by so many people. How would I narrow it down? Twanna, go ahead. You are ready while I'm thinking.
I'm going to just put it out there. My father. He was the root of it all, so, and he's also going with the times. Given his age, he's still going with the times. So I would definitely say he is my biggest inspiration.
That's so heartwarming, Twanna. Thank you for that. Anastasha?
For me, my biggest inspiration has been my mom. I've seen her meet a lot of challenges and come out the other side. From whether it was in work, because she was like the first female in the military here, so she really set the path for women to be in the army here. I've seen her battle cancer and come out the other side whole. I've seen her go through so many things and just going through that fight and that struggle and kept herself whole and come out the other side. So she has always been that one I look to for. If I'm having a hard time, what do I need to do to get through this? Yeah.
I was also heartwarming, Anastasha. Thank you. I'm so happy that mummies and daddies are represented up here on the panel today. And I'm going to ask Asia and Vikwana the same questions, but I just want to say that my mother and father also played a significant role for me. Like Twanna, my father was an engineer. And so perhaps my curiosity along the lines of technology and my disrespect for gender roles along the lines of technology came from the fact that my father didn't keep anything from me. He didn't keep his tools from me. He didn't keep his technology from me, or my sister for that matter. My mother, while her role was not necessarily in technology, she was a she's retired now and she still continues to be a really hard-working woman, but she was a really hard-working woman, and she taught me the values and the virtues of working hard and applying yourself, and she is the embodiment of grit. So I just want to big up mummies and daddies for a moment before we transition down to Asia and Vikwana.
Like, my inspiration was actually my brothers, but like my second brother mostly, because he was a person who always playing with technology and gadgets. And I was like, oh, that's cool, but me really want to do that. And then when I grew up and he started to leave the household and, well, gone away to study, I was like, you know what, I'm going to follow in my brother's footsteps because I really want to be like my brother. He's in England studying right now to be an aeronautic engineer. And like, you know what, if I don't want to do that, I can actually take my IT, as I said, and take it to the Marine. So I would say my brothers. But my father and my mother, they are very supportive, and I love them dearly.
Aww.
That's so cute.
Thank you, Vikwana. Asia, let's hear from you.
Okay. So I would say the first person to create a phone, a mobile, up to technology, they are inspiring also. And my brother also, as she said, her brother was into technology. Before I was born, my brother would be the one to tell my parents how this goes and how this goes. But when I was born now, I took over and I was learning from him. And he was the one who really inspired me to learn technology.
So it sounds like it goes back to what was instilled in us from a really young age, and our biggest motivators came from the home in the form of mothers, fathers, brothers, instilling in us that we could do it because they could do it, and it didn't matter that we were girls. Thank you so much for that question. I enjoyed having to explore the softer side of technology today because it's something that we didn't look at. So thank you for bringing that up before we ended the event. Any other questions? Oh my. ZIZ, give us a chance. We have questions.
What was some great advice that you guys received that really encouraged you to pursue this?
So I was already, yeah, that's a really good question. Thank you. I was already in pursuit of it. I was in the middle of my master's degree. I was struggling with a statistics class. It was really taking my life. It was so hard. By the way, I absolutely love what statistics affords us. But it was really difficult. It was really challenging. And I remember calling home one evening. I was practically in tears. And I was telling my mother, and the program was so rigorous and it was so strict that any failure would put you on academic probation, and after academic probation, you will be removed from the program for not measuring up. And I called my mother and I said, Mommy, I think I'm going to fail statistics. And she said, she said to me, I thought she might have been devastated. And I also explained to her what would happen if I failed statistics. I thought she would have been devastated. I thought she would have been beside herself with grief that her good child gone out to foreign to fail, to have to come back home. And she said, Genelle, just give it your very best shot because I know you gave it your all. And it was, she doesn't even know this. I hope she's home listening, and I hope she's in tears. Because since she told me that, everything I pursue now, I pursue it along the lines of, Genelle, just give it your best shot because you could do it. And I would know. She also said, and I would know that you gave it your very best shot. And so that is my advice that my mother passed on to me, that I now take with me everywhere. Twanna?
I would say my biggest advice is, don't try to fit in. Don't try to go with the crowd. If 15 of your friends are doing arts, that doesn't mean you have to do art. You have to know what you're into and follow that dream. As cliche as it is, it actually works as you grow older. Trust me.
Thank you for that, Twanna. That's really powerful too. And it comes back to knowing yourself from your passions and exposing yourself. Really, really, really powerful. Thank you. Anastasha?
Wow, there's so much that I've been taught over the years that stand out for me, but I think the most important thing would be willing to stand on your own. As women going through life, we're going to be told no a lot more than men, right? It's just by virtue of you being a woman. But if it's something that you want to do, if it's something that you're passionate about, if it's your dream, be willing to be the sole person standing on that dream and building that dream. I think that takes you so much further than having a whole nation behind you. Yeah.
It's really powerful too, and it comes back to what Twanna mentioned, which is knowing yourself, doing what you want to do and not being influenced by others, and not being afraid to go it alone. Thank you. Asia?
Okay, so my biggest advice would be to be true to yourself, like don't fit in but stand out. So if you want to pursue IT, do it, and don't pay attention to naysayers and people who will tell you can't do it. Just have confidence and you will be able to push through it.
Thank you, Asia.
Growing up, I had bullies, and my mother used to be like, "Oh, don't study them. You have life better than them, so you could do what you want. They're just jealous of you." So I go about my day, going to school, and they will always come pick on me, and I would just, and then my mother saw me crying one, and she was like, "Vikwana, listen to me." And she sang a verse from Father Lead Me Day by Day, which is the last verse. And she said, striving, thinking, learning still. And she was like, Vikwana, remember to always strive, think, and learn. You learn from other people. You strive from what you do. And I always kept that with me up to this date. Like, even though I had tests, I keep that with me. And I felt confident every time I hear that verse.
Very good. So as I said, do we have a few minutes to take the last two questions? We do have a few minutes, yes. We want the questions. We campaigned for questions. We want the questions. Malaika, I know you had a question. There was somebody else as well. You had a question as well? Okay. Get ready to ask your question as soon as Malaika is finished.
All right. My question is, in school, was it more males than females? And if it was it that the females were leading the males or the other way around?
Thank you, Malaika. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we didn't touch on composition of classes along the lines of gender in the discussion. So I'm glad you raised it. And I was almost always outnumbered entirely by the men in the classes, especially the technology classes. So when you go over to school, you take technology classes, you take non-technology classes, and together they form your degree program. In my technology classes, myself and the handful of other women in the technology classes, and as the technology classes became more rigorous, the smaller the number of female members. So we were always outnumbered. Good thing we didn't let it stop us. We kept going, we trudged on, and in fact we had a really good relationship with the men in the class. So it helped. Like, we didn't get any of the, well, you can't do this, why are you here, sort of narrative that you sometimes hear about out there in the world. They were quite welcoming, they were quite helpful, as well as we were able to help them at times. So I can't recall there being any significant wealth of knowledge and skills along either end, because as you go up the ranks, the classes get harder and everybody's struggling, really, men and women alike. So, but yes, the women were definitely outnumbered. Twanna, what about you?
Well, it would depend on the class. If it's a STEM subject, meaning science, technology, engineering, and math, mostly males. You know, and that's the barrier that we should try to break. But it's mostly males in those classes, and I studied management of information systems. So if there were like 3 females, 3 to like 10 males was the ratio. So yeah, I definitely had more males in my field of study. Yes.
Anastasha, thanks for that, Twanna.
I'm trying to think. In technology, I was outnumbered by the men. Yeah, I was like the lone female, right? In business, not so much, It's more women around me than men. Yeah, so I think the scales are tipping a bit now.
Yes, there's some slippage in that regard.
Yeah.
There's still work to be done, and we're here making it happen. Yeah. But there's some slippage, so we celebrate that. Yes. Thank you for that, Anastasha. Asia, what about you? What does your class composition look like right now, male to females? Females to males?
It's almost equal. I think there would be more females than males in the IT program now. Yeah.
That is really encouraging.
But when I was going to school, well, I studied IT with Mr. Deepak because my school is small, so it didn't really offer these type of subjects. So then the class was really big, so it had a lot of females, a lot of males, but still it would be more males than females who were studying at the time.
Sounds representative of my experience, but your current experience in the IT program at TVEMS is really, really encouraging, and I'm happy to hear that the women outnumber the men. That's what men don't feel badly, but that's what we want. Because you all have you are encouraged to believe that technology is a home for you, and we celebrate you being there, and you all add a great deal of value. But we just want women to know that they have a place there as well, so don't feel too badly. Vikwana, what about you?
Well, as me and Asia is in class together, and as I say, is half is there. But in high school, students from all over, and I did IT in first and second again. I didn't care about it. But like when I go to Mr. Deepak class, it was definitely more men than females, but it was a lot of females. But I enjoy communicating with all of them and hearing all of them different thoughts, and I appreciated that.
That's fantastic. I'm so happy to hear that there's a changing of the guard taking place along the lines of gender representation in IT, evidenced by the fact that 2 of our IT students could speak to the fact that right now in their current IT programs, women outnumber men. Men, like I say, I'm not knocking you, and I'm not chasing you from the field. I just want us to welcome more women to the field. So I'm happy for that. Thank you for the question, Malaika. There was another question.
What is your greatest accomplishment in your career as women in technology?
That is, that's actually an easy question. So I am delighted. I feel honored. It is a privilege that I get to loan my face and my voice to the cause that is the expansion of girls in technology. I never shy away from the opportunity. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm always happy to pass on and to evangelize the work of women in technology, because I think it's really, really important. The fact that I'm able to do this, the fact that I'm in a position to do this, is a tremendous accomplishment for me. To say it's an accomplishment is even unfair. It is a privilege. I feel honored that I'm able to do it. So thank you for the question. Twanna?
I would say my greatest accomplishment is being in a time where I have a balance of the older generation, you know, who was not really into technology, and then we have the younger generation. So I have a balance of both times, and being able to pursue my studies in that field, given the option of actually having that course available, and being victorious in that, and then being able to take what I studied into the real world and being good at it. So that's my greatest accomplishment.
That must be rewarding.
Yes, it is.
Anastasia? It's a difficult one.
There's so much that I can pull, but I think my biggest would probably be being able to represent my country as an entrepreneur, spanning multiple fields. I've been able to represent St. Kitts as far afield as Europe, to the, what's that, east, south? Yes. And Africa to the east. And being able to be a person who is producing, because sometimes I get that when I travel, even in the Caribbean, man, I think it's to produce anything. I'm like, what? You know, I mean, people tell you these things.
The goal.
Very boldly. Like, just because we're small, don't mean we can't do nothing, right? And so being able to be in that space and be able to represent St. Kitts and Nevis as an entrepreneur, as a female entrepreneur, achieving all the things that I have achieved in the last 10, 11 years, I think that for me is a huge accomplishment.
Yeah, those are in fact tremendous accomplishments, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't want our listeners, I don't want our members to walk away from this engagement and think that you are only an entrepreneur in St. Kitts. Your products and your name, your business name is out there in the regional spaces as well as in international spaces.
Yeah, because that's another thing that people look at. But even here, people look at my product and say, but they're from foreign, no, they're produced right here, packaged right here, and they're made with ingredients from right here. And so for me, I mean, having had that vision from very early on, that is the level I wanted to be at, and pursuing qualifications to be at that level, I think has been really big.
That's fantastic, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Thank you. Asia, what would you say is your biggest accomplishment? What do you regard is your biggest accomplishment?
You all would have more experience than me because you've been in the field longer, but my greatest accomplishment was getting that one in IT, making my parents proud, and being accepted to college to study IT.
Let's give a round of applause, because those are not accomplishments to whisper, my dear. You need to go on to the mountaintops. You need to shout that, because a one in any subject, let alone IT, which we're here celebrating, we're holding it up on a platform, we're shining a light on it, is a tremendous achievement, not to mention being admitted into university, being accepted. Everyone doesn't get accepted, my dear. So celebrate yourself. That is a tremendous accomplishment, and congratulations. Vikwana?
Well, me didn't do nothing big, but as Asia, I did the same for what Asia did, but getting into college was actually one of the difficult times, because I was praying to God that I get in. Because if me get in, just go architecture and done. But and then when I heard that some persons didn't get into college for IT, I felt bad, but I felt happy I got in either way. So yeah.
Precisely. So this is, you know, you might scoff at your own achievements. You might think that they're not good enough. But I just want to, before we close, tell you that your achievements are in fact significant. They are legitimate. They are worthwhile, and they are worthy of celebration. So congratulations to you too. Don't shy away from them. Don't whisper about them. Shout about it, because this is really stuff that you need to celebrate and let. I mean, our young audience would be happy to hear these things, because I'm certain they aspire to be like you. So I'm going to ask that if there are any more questions, which I hope there are, you would tackle us out in the lobby to ask them. I cannot see that. Right. I need to take a moment to thank our sponsors for allowing us to put on this very exceptional event today. And I'm going to name them. They are the St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, ZIZ, The Cable, Flow, MacPennies, and Open Interactive. I also want to thank the Ministry of Information Communication Technologies, and particular the Honorable Minister of Information and Communication Technologies for organizing an event like this, because representation, as I mentioned in our introduction, representation of women in IT matters. Local representation of women in IT is absolutely priceless, because it's important for our young aspiring girls in IT to know that there is in fact a viable future waiting for them in IT. So I just want to extend my profound thanks to the panelists for joining me up here today. You were an awesome bunch. Asia and Vikwana, I really want to tip my hat to you, because you were asked to be up here on short notice, and I think you provided our audience with some really, really meaningful and valuable insight into what pursuing an education in IT looks like, and I really want to thank you. Anastasha, Twanna, I am in awe of you and your achievements, and I'm happy. I've always known Anastasha, but I'm happy to know that you and I share an interest and a background in IT. Twanna, I'm always happy to learn and to meet women in IT in the Federation, because there's so few of us. Let us band together. Let us see how we could improve and see to expanded inclusion of women in IT in the Federation. And with that, I'm going to end today's session and thank everyone for listening. Thank everyone who came to the Innovation Hub to listen to us and to participate today. And thank everyone who, in addition to listening, asked questions. Thank you so much.